Hello, everybody. My name is Clentus, and welcome to the Clentus Dumagude podcast. So, guys, I do sit down and talk about what is on my mind on this podcast. And of course, I set up a camera in front of me to turn it into a video podcast as well, so that those that are interested in seeing my pretty face, you can go to YouTube and then listen to what is in my noggin in that particular week or day. Sometimes I'll be here every day. Sometimes I'll be here once a day. Sometimes probably no video in a week. But I'm going to try my best to be as consistent as I can, because here on YouTube streets, consistency is the queen or king or whatever it is. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's podcast topic. And probably you've already seen, if you are seeing me on YouTube, the title of this podcast. It is Get to Know South Africa tab. So if you are a YouTuber and you are new on YouTube, in most cases, some people will do what Get to Know Me tab for their subscribers to get to know this YouTuber, their backstory and things of that nature, or whatever it is that interests them. So instead of it being about me, I'm going to make it about South Africa. And the reason why I'm making it about South Africa is because after my previous video, which got such great attention, I want to thank each and every one of you that clicked and watched that video. I was just ranting, guys. I didn't know that after posting it was just going to take off the way it did. And I also want to welcome the new subscribers on my YouTube channel, or the video. What is it? What do I call it? YouTube video podcast. I think that's what it's called. I welcome each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate those of you that are liking the video, because clicking the like button, it helps this particular podcast, especially when it's on YouTube, with the YouTube algorithm. So the algorithm can push the video podcast to more people that may be interested in the topic or topics that I talk about. So, like I said in my previous video, I was ranting about why African Americans are moving to Africa. And you guys did hear my rant. Thank you so much to those that commented. I highly appreciate it. But I also want to thank others that did not comment under the comment section. Instead, they sent me emails. I've read each and every one of your emails, the whole 310 of them. I did. And interestingly as well, the people that were sending me emails, they were also suggesting some video topics or podcast topics that I should talk about, because most of you, I was looking at the analytics, it was telling me that 51% of the viewers on YouTube are from the US. So a lot of you had some questions, and these questions, I am turning them into this video of Get to Know South Africa tab. And I thank you for that suggestion. And I also appreciate the fact that you are taking an interest in South Africa. So, of course, this video is definitely going to be about South Africa. This is where I was born. This is where I was bred. This is where I went to school, university, working, living, and basically building my life. As you guys already know, that South Africans do not travel. We don't travel. If we do travel, it is either for work or maybe for leisure, and then we are back home. But most of the time when we travel, especially Black South Africans, we just because of work, and then we come back. We don't live in other countries. If we do, again, it's because of work. So I'm just going to speak about what I know and the people that I know being South African citizens. So we are a diverse nation. We got all kinds of people. If you are interested, so we have Black people, which make the majority of the population. Then we have white people that make about 10% of the population. Then we have Indian descendants, which we call them Indians here. They make about, 2%. And then we have what we call, and the US people might, especially the black people in the US, might find it offensive. Here in South Africa, it's not. It is something that was devised by the apartheid government in separating us according to their apartheid laws. So mixed race people in South Africa are called coloreds. So that's not offensive term here in South Africa. It's more like a racial identity. When you fill in a government form of some sort, you will state your ethnicity, black, white, Indian, or colored. So it's not an offensive term. Please do not be offended by that. That's if you come to South Africa, you're gonna hear a lot of that. And another thing, if you're a mixed race, I know in some parts of the world, particularly in the US, a person of mixed race, especially if you're a mixed race of a white to a black, or Native American to a black, or Indian to a black, that particular individual falls under black people. Or I think that's how they identify, and they also identify themselves as black rather than European or mixed race. So here in South Africa, they are coloreds, and they don't have a problem with that. Well, some do, especially when they try to correct us and other people by saying, no, I am a Khoisan, or I think this mic is too close. They'll say, I'm a Khoisan, or like the original people of South Africa. Others will say, whatever it is that they will want to say. I know currently many of them are currently taking DNA tests to see where exactly their roots come from. Some of them, of course, during the days of colonialism, they were brought. Some of their forefathers were brought from Malaysia. They were brought from China. Others were brought from India, and so they think or believe. Some of them believe that their bloodline will lead them straight either to South America or to the East. So we don't have a problem with that at all. They can do whatever it is that they want that makes them comfortable. I think it's their right to do that, and they are not also discriminating against anybody for trying to identify differently from the word colored. So I received about 102 questions about South Africa because of my previous video, but I only took about 20 because most of them kind of repeat themselves. I thought those were very interesting questions that you guys were asking. If you're interested on my email address, it is under about of my channel. I'm also going to leave it in the description box as well in case you want to make some video suggestions for me or topics that you would like me to talk about. In this video, I'm not going to touch on the South African history. I thought I was going to start with this so that you get a clear picture. That will be a video for another day where I'll just take you into our backstory as South Africa, where it all starts, where our history basically starts to where we are currently. Okay. And I think maybe most of these questions, I think I'm doing it backwards. Then that's when these questions are going to make more sense to you once I have done the history part of our country. But so without further ado, I think I have blabbed enough. The first question that I was asked, in fact, I was asked this question by about 4 people. So they were asking, is Mary Jane legal in South Africa? So for the purposes of not using actual words, this is YouTube with YouTube guidelines. For those that are watching me on YouTube, I'll have to twist some words, but I think many people know who Mary Jane or what is Mary Jane. So yes, Mary Jane is legal in South Africa as of 2018. And the reason why it is legal, it was for medicinal purposes. But of course, I don't particularly think that is the case currently because after the Constitutional Court, so Constitutional Court here in South Africa is the highest court in the land, and its decisions are final and you cannot appeal them. So when the Constitutional Court pronounces on a piece of law, the government has to make sure that it carries that. They can't argue it, they can't repeal it, or anything like that. It's like the US Supreme Court. That's our Supreme Court here in South Africa, but we call it the Constitutional Court. So as of 2018, Mary Jane was legalized. However, this is what the court said when it made it legal, because you can't 100% use it as a condition. And the condition is an adult person may use or be in possession of cannabis in private for his or her personal consumption in private. So you can't be walking the streets of South Africa with a joint in your mouth. You will get arrested. However, in the privacy of your home, in the privacy of your vehicle, okay, maybe in your vehicle in public, that will not be allowed. But you can do that in the privacy of your home. It is legal. I have not heard in a very long, since 2018 anyway, where somebody was caught with a bag of Mary Jane and they were taken to court, prosecuted, and sentenced. I have not heard that in a very long time. So that doesn't mean that people are not smuggling it in great numbers or in big batches. I think even if when the police catch them, they don't necessarily arrest them and it doesn't make the news. So if you walk down the streets of South Africa, sometimes you can actually smell it. You will be able to tell that I'm approaching a group of people basically doing their thing. So yeah, Mary Jane in South Africa is legal. So the second question that I was asked, I thought this question was very popular for some reason. I was asked by 63 people. Is homosexuality legal in South Africa? So once again, the Constitutional Court in South Africa made a ruling on the 30th of November 2006 that gay marriage is legal, but homosexuality has been legal since the inception of South Africa's democracy. It's enshrined in the constitution of the country. Let me just show you. I do have the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa here. If you go to Section 9 of the Constitution, which is the Equality Clause, it's under Chapter 2, which is called the Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights is the fundamental constitutional rights that South Africans enjoy. If you read it, it's going to be quite short. If you read the Equality Clause, is Section 9. It says everyone is equal before the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law. And then if you go to Section 9, subsection 3, it states the rights that are protected under the Constitution, which is the state, meaning the country or the government, may not unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly against anyone on one or more grounds, including race, gender, sex, pregnancy, marital status, ethnic or social origin, color, sexual orientation, age, disability, religion, conscience, belief, culture, language, and birth. So as you can see, homosexuality is mentioned in the Bill of Rights under the Equality Clause. So as a result of that, the gay groups or the gay activist groups took the government to court to challenge the former matrimonial regime, which stated or defined marriage as being of between a man and a woman. So now, because we have people of the same sex who may fall in love with each other and they may want to build a life together and get benefits that all other married people get, then they took the government to court, where they challenged the matrimonial regime, and the Constitutional Court ruled that matrimonial regime to be unconstitutional, and therefore gay marriages was allowed. And that was on the 30th of November 2006. So yes, homosexuality in South Africa is legal. And yes, you can get married to your same-sex partner in South Africa. Even though it's called civil union, here in South Africa, but it's marriage at the end of the day. And you can enjoy all the benefits that all other people enjoy in a marriage. That includes your health insurance and provident funds and all this other stuff that comes with marriage. And the third question was, how is dating life for a single mother in South Africa? I thought that was a very interesting question. This was asked by a majority of women. I can't remember what's the number. I think there were more than the second question. So this one is going to be a tricky one. Okay, single. I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to lie on that one. I'm not sure how is dating life for a single mother here in South Africa, but in South Africa, men don't discriminate if you have a child. If they like you, they like you. And dating in South Africa, I think this question is also repeated, but in a different way. I'm going to repeat what I'm going to say there. Dating in South Africa is very intentional. And by intentional, I mean if I like a girl, I'm not liking her just to go out on dates with her. I'm liking her because I want to be in a committed relationship with her. Same goes with a woman. When a woman is approached by a guy, her intentions is not to run around with him, but is to be in a committed relationship. That's what I mean. That dating in South Africa is very much intentional. So if you're gonna come with a player mentality, or I just want to go on various dates, it does not quite work that way. If you and I are together, maybe we go out on a date and we like each other, whether we defined it as an exclusive relationship or not, trust and believe me, that's now an exclusive relationship. You are now dating full time. So I think with single mothers as well, if they find a guy that likes them, it's definitely going to be intentional. And I think when it comes to children, I think as well it would depend on how many exactly do you have. Because the last thing that a gentleman will want is to take in somebody else's responsibility. If it's a one child and the child is pretty young, maybe a toddler, I think for the guy it's much more tolerable. No, maybe tolerable is a wrong word. For lack of a better word, let's say tolerable. He can grow with the child, and he can take on the responsibilities um, that comes with the lady, especially if he likes her and he really sees a future with her. So I would say it is safe for a single mother to come to South Africa and enjoy the dating life here. But you must know that it is quite intentional. The fourth question is there sex tourism in South Africa? I didn't even know there was such a thing. What is that? So I did some research and I discovered that the Gambia is experiencing older white women going to the Gambia simply to get some African, you know. I was quite surprised to hear that. I was like, what? And when I looked further, I discovered that the Caribbean islands also, some women go there because of a certain perception about the men on those islands, and as a result of that, there's sex tourism. So I don't know. I've never heard of anything like that here in South Africa, and I doubt that South African men would put themselves in a situation. South African men are very arrogant. No, 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 proud. They would not want to hear that they are with you because you want to pay them for. No. I don't know. Honestly speaking, I'll be very surprised if there's something like that is going on here in South Africa. But if that's what you want to do, probably you can. But I don't think it's something that when the guy is done, you reach down your purse and say thanks for your service. they'll be offended. So I don't know. If you want to experience such a thing, just come. If you see a guy that you like, go for him. He won't ask for money unless if he tells you that I want money. But I doubt that that won't be the case. If you're South African and you're watching or listening, please correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm living under a rock. The fifth question was, what shots must I take to come to South Africa? So I'm thinking this person is asking about health or medical shots like yellow fever, malaria, and things like that. No. When you come to South Africa as an African American, just hop on the plane and come to South Africa. We don't have those things here. You don't need to go to a doctor to get a shot of any kind to come to South Africa. South Africa is like at the tip of Africa, all right? There we have 4 seasons. We got summer, we got winter, which just kickstarted today. It's cold outside. We have autumn, which is what you guys call fall, and then we have spring. I know I mix them. So right now, from now all the way to about September, it's going to be winter. And I can tell it's cold. So if you are planning a trip to South Africa from now until about September, just know that it's cold. Come with warm clothes because you don't want to come here with the mentality of thinking that Africa is hot. No, we are below the equator, right at the tip, not far from the South Pole either. So we get our weather from the South Pole. So right now, the cold front is kicking butt. So please come with warm clothes. The sixth question is, how politically stable is South Africa? That is a good question, I thought. South Africa does not have an appetite of being politically unstable. We are not a violent society. If we are unhappy about something in politics, we take to the streets, march, break some few things to basically say, hey, get out if you want a president out. We have kicked a sitting president out of the office before. So we are more vocal than violent, if I may put it that way. And so we are very, very stable. In 2024, we are going to our general elections to elect a new president. So you're not going to hear anything that some people think that, oh, in Africa, politics, things are very unstable there. Not South Africa. We don't have that appetite at all. At all, we don't have the appetite to fight somebody. Yes, we may argue about political ideologies. We might argue about a political leader that we love that other people don't love, but it ends there. So we are very much politically stable here in South Africa. Question 7. How secular or religious is South Africa? That is also a very good question. South Africa is a secular state. We are not a religious state. We are not a police state. We are not an autocrat. We are autocracy. Is it autocracy? Autocrat? We are not any of those. We don't have a dictator. South Africa is a constitutional democracy where everybody has a right to exercise their cultural belief, their religious practices, and things like that, as long as you are not going to be harming anybody. So we are a secular state. We are not religious. However, Christianity in South Africa is in its majority. I think it's around 85% Christian in South Africa. And then we have Islam. We have Judaism. We even have Buddhism. We have also atheists. And of course, another large part of, especially the Black people, you have traditionalists. So these are people who still practice their cultural customs and beliefs rather than being a Christian. Sometimes they mix both. It just depends per person. So no, we are a secular state here in South Africa. The 8th question is, how many countries are in South Africa and which one do you recommend I visit? That question made me giggle, but at the same time, I understood it. So, South Africa is a country. South Africa is a country in the southern of Africa. Not to confuse you. So you have Southern Africa, then you have Central Africa, then you're going to have West to East Africa, and then you're going to have the North of Africa. South Africa is the only country on the African continent that it's, how do you call it, diagonal point? Is it what it's called? South Africa? We are the only one that is called, where we are situated on the continent, South Africa. It's a country, it's not a region, it is a country. And it doesn't have countries. However, South Africa does have provinces. There are 9 provinces in South Africa. If you are interested to know what they are, let's start with where I am. I'm in the province of Gauteng. So the G is pronounced as Gauteng. I come originally where I was born in KwaZulu-Natal, or you can call it the Kingdom of the Zulus. I am Zulu. So there's KwaZulu-Natal, or KZN as we call it. There is Eastern Cape, there is Western Cape, there is Northern Cape, there is Mpumalanga, there is Northwest, and Limpopo. So of course, I've already mentioned Gauteng. So Limpopo and Gauteng. So those are the 9 provinces in South Africa. And the apartheid government, when it segregated us, it did not segregate us from between whites and blacks, but it also further segregated us according to our tribes. Like I said, if you go to KwaZulu-Natal, that's where the Zulus are at. If you go to the Eastern Cape, you will find Xhosas and Mpondos. But within the Xhosas and the Mpondos, they even made more of a division where the Xhosas don't get along with the Mpondos, or whatever the case, or whatever the politics is there. And then if you go, Gauteng does not belong to anybody. It's like the United States doesn't belong to anybody except for the Native Americans. So Gauteng is something like that. Everybody comes from all these provinces to Gauteng because that's where Johannesburg is situated. And Johannesburg is Africa's economic hub. So this is where everything happens. If you want your dream to come true, you hop on a bus, taxi, whatever, and come to Johannesburg and build a life for yourself, wealth if you're lucky. And then question 9 was, what business opportunities are available for the African American in South Africa? So with this one, I am going to refer you to an African American woman that is here. She has a YouTube channel called Ashley in Africa. I think she curated a very well put together business opportunities that she found for African Americans or African diasporans that might want to come to Africa and invest. I think it's called her initiative is called the African Investor Academy. The Africa Investors Academy, sorry, it's the Africa Investors Academy. That's what she owns. You can go to her YouTube channel and make a comment. She'll probably provide you with her email address and you can communicate, because there are lots and lots of opportunities here in South Africa. And I would say, to me personally, I would advise you, if you are interested in starting a business here, go into property. Property development in South Africa is booming. So before things start getting really, really expensive, once the other people realize that you guys are coming here in numbers, and then they will not like it and they want prices hiked, right now is the best time for you to put your dollar and invest, buy property, hire them, or what you call this, rent them out, turn them into Airbnbs, or whatever the case is. Some African Americans that I hear are already making a lot of money out of property opportunities. So I would say do that as well. Also, the Uber, but then here we call it Bolt. If you can buy a car in South Africa and hire a driver to do Bolt or Uber, those businesses as well are currently booming. You can do so. Okay. You can make money while you're living in the US. I know Dr. Assad was already making some good money while living in New Orleans, and he was having properties that he was renting out in South Africa before he moved? So that was actually a good question. Question 10 is, how is healthcare like in South Africa? South Africa has one of the best healthcare systems on the continent. Again, the reason why South Africans don't travel is because we have it all here. We don't need to travel anywhere for health. Our doctors are one of the best doctors in the world. We got best running hospital systems. We got best medical care. We got efficient and effective ERs. So yeah, definitely you will not have to worry about our healthcare system when you are in South Africa. As a matter of fact, you will be treated like a king or queen because we do have government hospitals which currently are overwhelmed with a number of patients due to the population growing. And most of the population that is growing in our country is people coming from other parts of Africa. And so some of them come to Africa already ill, and then they go to our hospitals, and then basically most of them, okay, before I'm accused of xenophobia, but it's evident when you go to any of the South African government hospital or clinic that the majority of patients that you are going to see there are not South Africans. Some of them do come to South Africa. I think now there's something called medical tourism. A pregnant woman in Zimbabwe, instead of giving birth there, she will cross the border to come and give birth in South Africa because of our healthcare system. That's how good it is. Some actually, when they're about to give birth, probably coming from another part of Africa, they'll rather come to South Africa to give birth than in their own country. So, yeah, our health system very much on point. 11, why South Africans don't travel or immigrate to the US? Because we have everything here. I think if you're watching African American videos on YouTube, you're going to hear them say, South Africa is very much like the US. When you're walking down the streets of Johannesburg, it's like you're walking in New York City, or if you're in Durban, it's like you are in Miami. If you are in Cape Town, you are like in San Diego, which is kind of very true. So, like I said in my previous video, we don't travel. When we travel for vacation, we're going just down the road to Durban or Cape Town or Port Elizabeth or this, there's a subscriber of mine said, I must say this very slowly. Gqeberha. I know the tongue is a click tongue because it's in the Eastern Cape. That's where the Xhosa people are at. So Port Elizabeth is now called Gqeberha. Okay? I hope that was slow enough for you. So we don't travel because we got everything. Everything we need, we have it here. And on top of that, we are mostly conscientized ourselves to support South African made industries and products and items rather than going out to support someone else. We basically taking the rand, that is our currency, and circulating it within our borders. So that's one of the things. But if we do travel or immigrate, the reasons are job. If it's not a job, it's marriage. If it's not marriage, maybe somebody just decided to leave South Africa, I suppose. Number 12, how is the education system like for my school going children? Yeah, so the South African education system is very much westernized. I must say, a lot of what our children here in South Africa learn, the American kids also learn. It's just that South Africa, our schooling system is very, very strict. Some teachers, most teachers, are still very much into education. They are very committed to education, and they make sure that the kids they are shaped for the future in a way that is going to be world standard. So our education system is excellent, I must say. Your children will definitely will be able to transition in very easily. And on top of that, they'll make friends and they will choose whatever it is that they want to learn. There are 11 official languages in South Africa. They can choose to learn any of them. So far, I've heard most of the African American kids that are in our schools, they're learning isiZulu, which is Zulu. Um, I would say Zulu is quite easy to learn. Yeah, it is quite easy. I don't know, maybe because I'm a Zulu, but I think it is very easy to learn. So many parents or the kids, they choose Zulu. I was very surprised to hear one of the African American kids say they are doing Afrikaans. I was like, you're doing Afrikaans? Wow. Afrikaans is like the Dutch settlers here in South Africa. They created their own language, but still keeping Dutch as the predominant language in that language that they created here in South Africa. It's called Afrikaans. Number 13, which is best to settle in Johannesburg, Cape Town, or Durban? I don't know. Okay, I will be biased because I come from Durban, which is KwaZulu Natal. It's a city in KwaZulu Natal. Uh, it's beautiful, slow paced. It's got an ocean, or what do you call it? It's a coastal area, and it's full of Zulu people, of, because it's the kingdom of the Zulus, and also it has Indians. Uh, Apparently, the population of Indians in Durban are the largest outside of India. I'm telling you, it's a fact. So Durban it's very very beautiful. I must say, if I say so myself. And Cape Town is more like like I said earlier, it's your San Diego. I don't know if San Diego is where, if you are in the US, is where you would like to settle in. But I would say Cape Town is good to have a holiday house there because of the scenery, the vibe there. It's more holiday or vacation-y like. Johannesburg is where the hustle and the bustle is at. It's the economic hub of Africa. This is where it's very business driven, very serious, and very fast paced as well. So it's going to be up to you where exactly do you want to go where it's slower, which is Durban, or you want to go where it's like vacationally like that is Cape Town, or you want to be in the hustle and the bustle and hustling and running businesses or working for a conglomerate that are based here in Johannesburg. So it's going to be totally up to you what resonates with you. So that is why I say it's important when you come to South Africa, come as a visitor first, come back again as a visitor before you make your decision. Then you would know by your second visit which of the three cities that you feel like I think I would settle here. 14, I want to find a wife or husband in South Africa. How are women slash men in South Africa? So, like I said earlier, that dating in South Africa is very intentional. In most cases, when a person likes you, they are with the hope that this is going to lead to marriage at some point. So, how to find one? I don't know. It's going to depend on you. What sort of a person are you? Are you a person that is intentionally looking for a husband, intentionally looking for a wife? And you should know what type of a lover or a life partner you want to get yourself involved with. I must tell you, the women in South Africa, they are brought up differently. And also depends as well which part of South Africa you are at. For example, if you go to KwaZulu Natal, you'll find more of conservative women, a woman that is taught about or prepared to be a wife and what she ought to do, how she needs to behave and carry herself in the presence of a prospective husband. Men in KwaZulu Natal, the Zulu men, they have a mentality of, you must also know that at some point I might want to take a second wife. Are you willing to have a sister wife? Type of thing. That is, if you are going to get yourself involved with a Zulu man, especially a traditional Zulu man, not all Zulu men do this, no, and not all Zulu men believe that they should have more than one wife. But let's say you come across a guy he likes you too, but once he has married you and then he feels like, okay, I need to take a second wife, before he takes a second wife, first he needs to ask you for permission. That's what the culture or the custom requires, that he asks the first wife if you could take a second wife. But sometimes even if you say no, they'll go ahead and bring you a sister wife. So it just depends where in South Africa you are. So men in South Africa still believe that they are the head of the house. They are the caregivers, not the caregivers, providers and protectors and things like that. So a woman more like submissive type of way. And not all, please don't get me wrong, not all South African women are like that. More and more women are becoming, or I won't say adopting feminism, but they got a dash of feminism. There are some things that you cannot say to a South African woman, and there are things as well that she would let slide. But in most cases, when they want to settle down, they usually take what they've been brought up or trained at home to prepare themselves to be somebody's wife. So I don't know if that helps. Number 15, how is racism in South Africa and how South Africans deal with racism? I would not say racism is prevalent in South Africa because there are laws in place that prohibits racism. If, for example, usually whenever racism is perpetuated, it is usually by a white person. And so black South Africans usually approach the court, or I mean the police, because it's a crime. They approach the police, and then a case of crime and injuria is open. So basically, it's a law, or it's an offense that is created for somebody that makes somebody feels racialized. So the perpetrator will get arrested, then they will go to court, and they would be found guilty and then sentenced to 2 years in prison. If it's not, it's 2 years in prison plus 250,000 rand fine. So it comes with both what do you call this? Direct prison as well as a 250,000 rand fine. I'm not quite sure how much that in dollars. But anyways, so many racist white people in South Africa and many racist people that are not black, they tend to keep it suppressed. Though we know that some of them do call us the K word. So in the US, black African Americans are called the N word. Here in South Africa, we are called a K word. So some of these white people that are racist, they will blurt out the K word, and then we go to the police, and that's how we deal with it. They go to prison. So that's what we do. That's how we deal with racism. We imprison them. Ends there. 16, South Africans are xenophobic. How true is that? Oh, do you have time? Okay, anyways, I'll be quick on this one. So, South Africa is the most developed country on the African continent. After 1994, one of the reasons why we don't travel or immigrate is because we took it upon ourselves as South Africans to sacrifice all of those things. Stay home, build our country. Build our country to what we want it to be. And that's what we did. So the more we were building our country, other I'm talking now our African brothers and sisters from other African countries then got attracted to South Africa. Just like how we are opening our arms for African Americans and the African diasporans coming to South Africa, we did the same with our African brothers and sisters, because South Africans, that's how good we are. We are welcoming. We exercise the principle of Ubuntu. You are because I am because you are. That's how it's enshrined, or is it what is instilled in us to be welcoming and be helpful. So I'll go back just a little bit backward. Around the mid 90s, Angola, Kenya, um, Zaire, which is now called what? DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, they were all here. Not all of them, of course. Most of them were here because they were riddled with some kind of civil war and some kind of famine. So South Africa opened its door, and we were told by our government that these guys, they are here because of this, and that. Once everything has been sorted, they will go back home. And indeed, that's what happened. There were lots of Angolians. I remember in the 90s, like around 97, 98, I was even learning how to speak Portuguese because my neighbors, they came from Angola. And I was also learning how to speak Swahili because my other next door neighbors were from Kenya. So around 1999 into 2001, Angolians were gone. All of them. Poof. We woke up one morning, Angolians were gone from South Africa, and Kenyans were also gone. Now, the reason why is because Kenya started rebuilding its country to how it is today, amazing. And Angola also did the same thing. They discovered oil, and most of their citizens went back to benefit out of that find. Then we had Niger and Zairians, I think after the death of one of the dictators and also the discovery of other mineral resources, they also went back home in great numbers. Now we were left with Nigerians, and we were also left with Rwandans. Remember 1994 when the genocide happened that embarrassed the world? In Rwanda, some of them were here in South Africa, but when Kigama started to rebuilding Rwanda, all of them went back. So then in Zimbabwe, things started happening, land grabs and sanctions and all of that, and about 2 million of them came to South Africa. So we were still welcoming because we understood what was going on. We were watching these things on the news and we were feeling bad. We were like, no, it's fine. They were integrated with us. South Africa never had refugee camps at all. When they run away, they come and live with us in our spaces. They became our neighbors. Others, they also even married and have kids with South African women. Now, the problem started when some of them turned against us, started committing heinous crimes. And I'm talking heinous crimes, crimes that we've never heard of or heard about. They were being perpetuated against the South African citizens. And for a very long time, South Africans have been quiet. And for a very long time, South Africans have been asking, like, wait, but civil wars on the continent are a thing of the past. Why are they still here? And while they are here, they are now taken over. Some even treat South Africans as if South Africans are the ones that are foreigners. Some of them, and that is anger. It upsets South Africans so much so that we ended up talking out, like saying things out. Unfortunately, some resorted to violence because they felt like the government was not listening. They felt like some of these people are not listening, they're not hearing. And so they resorted to violence. We don't support violence. I don't support violence. Many South Africans don't support violence. And of course, the violent part of it and one side of the story is told by the mainstream media. And so much so that the media even duped us as xenophobic. So the word xenophobia then became a thing to basically shut us up. And South Africa, every time you say, South Africans are xenophobic, we really do get into our shells and hide there. And while we are hiding in our shell, these crimes just continue to happen. Just continue to happen. These crimes happen so much so that England stopped the free visa for South Africans to go to England. They say our passport is tainted because we are giving our passports freely, particularly to one of our African brothers. I'm not going to mention names. So they will leave their country deliberately because they know that their passports are not allowed or it's difficult for them to get into these particular countries. So they will come to South Africa, marry a South African woman, wake up the following day after the wedding, go to our home affairs, and then they are made South Africans and they come back with a passport. Then they take this passport, a South African passport, and go to England and other parts of the world, abandoning the woman that they married. Most of them, they have husbands that they don't know where they went to. And then they commit crimes with the South African passport in those countries. Just recently, South Africa was hit with grey listing. We didn't even know there was such a thing called grey listing. Grey listing, basically, we were accused that our flow of money is funding terrorism in Somalia. I think as well Pakistan or something like that. So we were put under the grey lists. So meaning now any money that is sent within the country and money that are going out of the country are now going to be monitored. And then when South Africans say something about this, then we get accused of xenophobia just to shut us up. So South Africans have gone to a point where, like, you know what, call us whatever you want. We want this resolved and we want it resolved now. Right now, the Nigerians are on the spotlight. South Africans want to know what exactly brings Nigerians to South Africa because there's never been a war going on in Nigeria. So to answer your question, no, South Africans are just tired of the crime, the drugs, because young people are being targeted as to be addicted to most of these drugs and then to keep so South Africans are tired and they are saying, call us whatever you want, we want this resolved. So now there are new political parties that are coming in and they're using this as their campaign strategies. And let me tell you something, South Africans are responding and they're saying they will vote for any political party that will get them all out of the country. So that's where it has gotten to. But now that we are having African Americans coming to South Africa, we are saying, please, you're welcome. Please come. But if African Americans themselves end up turning out to be like our African brothers and sisters who are committing crimes there, be rest assured, South Africans are going to say something. They are going to say something. So I don't know. I will leave the answer to you. Do you think South Africans are xenophobic for wanting justice and asking questions? I don't know. 17. What is the South African dream? Ooh. So the South African dream, I don't believe that we have a, I don't know. I think we have a vision, and our vision was a better life for all. That was our vision in South Africa. And we also have a slogan. I don't know now what happened to that slogan, that South Africa is alive with possibilities, which is quite true. South Africa is alive with possibilities. You could become absolutely any, you can come from rags to riches, like many people that we have witnessed ourselves that came from nothing to now living in the most posh suburbs of South Africa. They're driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and McLarens. Those are the cars you will see on the South African roads. African Americans that have been here, they will tell you, go to Sandton, go to Cape Town, go to Durban, go to Port Elizabeth. Black people driving these cars and living in mansions. Why? Because South Africa is alive with possibilities. You can become absolutely anything that you want. So much so that even our own African brothers and sisters that came here with good intentions are living lavish lifestyles because they took an opportunity and they turned it into something great. And that's what we want as South Africans. If you come in here, come with good intentions and also come here because you also want to contribute positively to the progress of South Africa. Okay. So yeah, we got that vision, a better life for all, as well as the country being alive with possibilities. 18. What are South African values? We only have one value and one value only: Ubuntu. That means that is why our arms are wide open for you to come here. And when you are here, we will take care of you. We'll make sure that you feel at home. We'll make sure that you enjoy yourself. And we'll make sure that when you leave, you'll be like, nah, I want to go back. And you actually do come back. Why? Because we are warm, we are friendly, we are loving, we are happy to see you. That is the South African value. Number 19, how involved is South Africa in BRICS? So if you don't know what is BRICS, BRICS is a, how do you call those things again? Is it blocks? Okay, let me put it this way. BRICS is spelled BRICS. So that is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 countries are the founders of BRICS. So it's actually threatening a lot of superpowers right now because many countries now are joining in BRICS. Please do research, do your research. I don't want to feed you on this one. Do your research or watch some YouTube videos about BRICS. But all I can say is South Africa is very much involved in BRICS. It is a co-founder of BRICS. And so I think there are some other things that are developing because South Africa is very much strong in the BRICS. Recently, we were accused by the US that South Africa is selling weapons to Russia. Imagine a whole African country selling weapons to Russia. What? So we all are having a conversation. South is like, oh, this is deja vu. 23 March 23rd March 2003. You know what happened? Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. An excuse to make us feel threatened, I suppose. So that's the discussion, and many people are quite upset with the US ambassador for accusing South Africa of this. It's quite stupid, to be honest. How can South Africa sell weapons to Russia? Think about it. We gave up our nuclear bomb. South Africa gave it up. Why would we be selling weapons? We are not for war in this country. So number 20 is, how safe is South Africa? So this one is a very popular question. I think I even got a long email about how unsafe South Africa is, how it is the most dangerous country outside of a war zone and what. I'm like, compare to other American cities. How dangerous exactly is South Africa? Because I can tell you, in South Africa, we've never had a mass shooting. We've never had a child walking to a school with a gun and blowing up every child. We've never had police killing anybody. Yes, there are crimes in South Africa. That's very true. People break into other people's homes because of the economic inequality that we're experiencing. That is not an excuse, anyways. We definitely do have high levels of crime, but to compare it with being the biggest outside of a war zone, that's ridiculous. That's very ridiculous. And African Americans that have visited South Africa will tell you that is not true. They felt very safe here in South Africa. So I find that to be quite interesting. I get the propaganda. The propaganda machine is well oiled. The mainstream media and it's all aimed at African Americans. Because I can challenge you right now. If you are coming to South Africa anytime soon, here's my challenge for you. Hop on a plane, take a video, and show the world the majority of the passengers on that plane. Tell them what race is there. You would find that you are the only chocolate chip cookie that is in that flight coming to the most dangerous country in the world. Trust and believe me, you would probably be the only black person. I was on a flight from New York once coming back to South Africa. I was the only black person. And you ask yourself, what do they know that we don't? Because that's what if I was an African American in a flight coming to South Africa is full of white people, I would ask, what's there that I don't know? And once I'm here, I would dig and find it. So South Africa is quite safe. South Africans ourselves will make sure that you are safe when you come here. So yes, there is crime. That's true. Are we in a war zone? No. Right now, I've been recording this video. Have you ever heard even one siren outside? No, you have not. So this thing that South Africa is dangerous, I don't know where it's coming from, but we understand the propaganda machine. Just like xenophobia, they say that South Africans are xenophobic because the people that run these mainstream media, they don't want you to come and benefit what they are benefiting out of South Africa. They want to keep you all afraid and thinking twice of packing and coming to South Africa. Because if you land here, you might discover the lavishness and opportunities that they are enjoying in South Africa. Think about that. Number 21, what language spoken in South Africa? Do you understand Afrikanese? Is Afrikanese? There are 11 official languages in South Africa, if you don't mind me listing them. So in South Africa, let's start with what you would understand. English. South Africa is an English-speaking country. And of course, when you're speaking to a South African, you will be able to comprehend, just like you can hear and understand what I'm saying. There is Afrikaans, the one that I told you earlier. It's spoken by the colored community as well as another group of white people. So the white people in South Africa are divided into two. There's the Afrikaners, they speak Afrikaans, and then you have English-speaking white people. Then you have Zulu, that's my language. Then you have Xhosa. Then you have Swati. Then you have Ndebele. Then you have Pedi. Then you have Chivenda, Chitsonga. Then you have Tswana, Sotho. What am I leaving out? Okay, yeah, I've already spoken about English and Afrikaans, so that's 11. And then we also have South African Sign Language, making it 12 languages. So that is what we speak. Most South Africans communicate with each other in English, and every South African speak about 3 or 4, even 5, sometimes even all 11 languages. I only speak 3, but I understand 5. So that is South Africa. Those are the language that we speak. Now, I also thought that this question, it's like two bonus questions. The first one is, what are some of the biggest challenges facing South Africa currently? So these ones are just your everyday life type of challenges like load shedding. If you don't know what load shedding is, it is where the government periodically would switch off the lights. But you not switch off the lights the entire country. It is planned. Basically, it's like some kind of rotation. If they switch off lights in Johannesburg, but not all of Johannesburg, so Johannesburg would have like different regions. So if they switch off in Sandton, the CBD will be on. If they switch off in the CBD, Sandton will be on, if that's making sense. But it is also scheduled. So they'll tell you there's an app that we all had to download, and we get these schedules. I would know that between 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., I'm going to be load shedded, meaning that I'm going to be in darkness for 2 hours. And they also go according to stages. They stage one, where the lights don't go off at all. And they stage two, I think the lights don't go off at all as well. Stage three, maybe it's switched off for an hour. Then stage four is switched off for 2 hours. And then there's stage six. That is the most extreme one, which we are currently experiencing, where they switch off for 4 hours twice a day. So it rotates. So that is load shedding, and it's annoying. It's the most annoying thing. And the reason why load shedding is happening, this is a new thing for South Africans as well. We always had 24-hour supply of electricity. Now, the problem is it started because these what you call these power stations were built during the apartheid era, like in the 1930s, 20s. And it was only built for that 10% of white people that I told you guys about. And they never thought that they would roll it out to a greater population around 1994 to date. Now there's 60 million South Africans, plus we have foreign nationals from other African countries that are here, which now it overwhelms the grid. So much so that the engines literally shut down. Now, to prevent a total blackout across the country, they have to do this. What do you call this? These schedulized light outs for specific region and so on. That's what you call load shedding. So it's very annoying because when our government, the black government, took over, they were short-sighted when it came to our power stations. They did not look at the infrastructure and thought, hey guys, we will be in trouble in a few years. Let's build new ones. So now it's only now they are starting to wake up to that reality. So now money has to be pumped in to build new power stations. Plus, we are also going into this new era of power supply, of course, green power supply and things like that. So now everybody's just tripping over themselves, wondering, oh my goodness, what do we do? What do we do? And while they're busy scratching their heads, we will be experiencing what is called load shedding. So that is the most irritating experience for South Africans. The second thing that I hate with a passion is corruption. Our government is corrupt to the core. I'm not going to lie about that one. Those guys are rotten to the core. And one of the reasons why we are also having load shedding is because of corrupt government officials, not because they did not see this problem coming in the future. They did, but they were taking the money and they were pocketing it. And now we're in this situation because of them. So corruption is definitely a very prevalent challenge that we are facing. Only now that the government is taking it seriously, they are arresting one of their own every time they are caught out. They're being prosecuted and thrown in jail, which is a good thing. But we feel like the rot is too deep, and it's going to take a while before it is all eradicated. Many South Africans are thinking in the next elections that we should vote differently and bring in new people who are going to basically start us from scratch. So that's one of the things that we are annoyed about, which is a big challenge. Of course, We have challenge of unemployment today. They released the stats that the unemployment rate increased today to 32.9%. That is a lot of people that are unemployed. Of course, when a country has a large number of unemployed people, that's when you're going to have levels of crime as well increasing. So that's a concern, and that is something that I feel it's one of the biggest challenges that South Africa is facing currently. But on the flip side of that, there are also lots of great things that are happening in South Africa. So it's not all doom and gloom. And the last bonus question is, I want to be your friend. How do I do that? You want to be my friend? I don't know. I don't know how you become a friend of a recluse. I think maybe because I got lots of those emails. I think maybe because I shared that I'm a loner. I don't know. We can talk via email. I don't mind. When you come to South Africa, we can hang out. I don't know. So I'm not quite sure, but that one made me giggle. That's why I included it as the last question. So, well, guys, those are the questions on Get to Know South Africa tab. That's us in a nutshell. And we are happy, I must say. I was having some people who watched my video, the last one, and they were saying thank you for speaking on our behalf and expressing exactly how we feel, because we feel exactly what you said in that video. And I was like, okay, that feels good to know that I was not speaking on behalf of other people and yet they didn't feel the same as I do. So generally everybody agreed with what I had said. So yeah. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for listening and also watching on YouTube. If you have suggestions for me for this podcast, please do leave them in an email. I will leave the email address in the description box, and you can email me, suggest topics that you would like me to talk about regarding South Africa. I'm more than happy to answer them. All right. So, anyways, if you enjoyed the podcast video, give it a like, do share far and wide, leave me a comment down below. I do read all your comments and I respond to them. And thank you. I'll see you again with my new video podcast. Goodbye.